Welcome to the raw and uncensored Ambitious Podcast. During our time here together, I will be instilling all of the strength, power, and determination you will need to use the very stones thrown at you to build your ultimate empire. We will redefine the word bitch from the derogatory to the acronym being in total control of herself. So let's adjust our crowns and prepare to live life ambitiously. Yeah, here I am, the original HBIC, Katie motherfucking Boyd. And on this episode of the Ambitious Podcast, we have a good friend of mine. She's also one of my mentorship clients, and I've known her for almost 2 decades, and her name is Martha Kyler. You guys are in for an incredible treat. So inspirational, so motivational, such an incredible journey and story of pain and struggle and just coming back bigger and better than ever. So a little bit about Martha before we get into this podcast. Her world was flipped upside down when she received a breast cancer diagnosis at the age of 31 years young. She took to social media to find her journey with friends and family, never expecting her story to transform into a passion for healing and advocacy. While connecting with other individuals impacted by breast cancer, Martha recognized the immense desire for guidance and mentorship when she was navigating this journey. She created the Pink Ribbon Playbook as a safe space for self-discovery and candid conversations, arming breast cancer rebels with the tools and strategies to rebuild their lives with intention. This was one of my most favorite podcasts. I absolutely adore this woman. She inspires me. I admire her so much, and I know that you guys will too. So without further ado, here's our Ambitious Podcast with the incredible Martha Kyler. Martha, thank you so much for being on the Ambitious Podcast today. I cannot wait for you to share your nuggets of wisdom to all the ambitious listeners all across the globe. So thank you from the bottom of my little black heart for being here.
Thank you for having me, Katie. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my God, I'm so pumped. I just want to, I'm like bursting with excitement. We were just having a little conversation off of the recording of the podcast, and I just love you so much, and you just bring so much to the table, and you're such an inspiration, and I know that the women here are going to love you just as much as I do.
Thank you. It's surreal because, Katie, you've been my role model for so long, and so to hear you say such kind words about me is, I don't know, it's really filling. Thank you.
I'm glad I can fill up your cup today, sister.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to talk to the listeners out there in Ambitious Land a little bit on how we met. So you want to walk them through that whole catastrophe?
Katie, I admired you from afar, not to be completely creepy, but I was competing in the pageant landscape and you trained several winners. And so I thought, what the hell am I doing? It's time to go to Katie Boyd. And so I trained with you. You got me in the best shape of my life. And then once I retired from pageantry, I still admired you as a businesswoman and as a leader. And so I've kind of watched from afar. Sometimes I've taken a step back and been in my own little world. But every time I revisited Katie, I was like, she's doing some really cool shit. And I want to be part of it. Yeah.
What year were you Miss Connecticut?
I never won. I was second.
No. Time out. You were Miss Connecticut.
No, I wasn't. No, I was I was close. I was second runner-up one year, top 10 a couple others, and then plot twist, I moved to Colorado, and yeah, top 10 there. But no, I never went to Miss America.
Damn it!
I know
they fucked up when they didn't have you be a winner because you were absolutely amazing. But you know what's cool is that, and I think about this all the time, is like everything that we went through in the pageant world got us ready to be the women that we are today in so many ways. Don't you agree?
Absolutely, Katie. That sense of like public, I know they say not to look at it this way, but public rejection of being like, you put your whole pussy into this and you didn't win. And that it's, at least for me, it was a sense of rejection, but I got through it. I dealt with it. I came out better on the other side of it. Like if that is not resilience training, I don't know what is.
Oh girl, when you're like ripped apart in the media, I mean,
yes.
I was competing a lot, like way ahead of you. So like we didn't have all the things that you guys had when you competed, like social media, Instagram, Facebook, and all these different platforms where people are just keyboard warriors and can say anything they want about your body, even though they're like living in their mom's basement and they weigh like 600 pounds. They're just like got Cheeto dust in their belly buttons and headgear on, and they're just keyboard warrioring it up. You know what I'm talking about, Martha Kyler.
Absolutely.
So you guys got fucked. I didn't have it like that bad. We would just get fucked up by like our business managers, our mothers, the people that were dressing us, coaching us, or whatever. They would just call us fat and ugly and cellulite right to our faces.
To your face. Wow. I mean, that's some,
Yeah.
that's some resilience training for sure too.
Just a smidge. But I think sometimes it's more difficult when it's like so widespread and people are saying things to you that you don't even freaking know. That's the creepy part about like you guys, your era of competitors, in my opinion.
It was a weird time. It was a really weird time. Yeah.
Definitely. And then competing all those years and then stepping away from the pageant world and, you know, working on your career, and you got married and had a baby and all that amazingness. And then let's talk about from there, kind of, it's a jump, right? From the pageant world to working on your own personal life and, you know, building your family and your career, to then why we're truly here today, which is to talk about your cancer diagnosis, your journey, and how you are truly taking everything that you learned throughout that experience and turning that pain that you went through into your purpose, which is the Pink Ribbon Playbook, which I'm so excited for the ladies here to listen to. So let's talk a little bit about that. Okay. So let's paint the picture. We're in the pandemic. No big deal. We're all just, you know, getting our shit on Amazon, getting our groceries delivered, wondering where we're getting toilet paper from. And boom, you get a cancer diagnosis out of the blue.
Yes. And the weird part is my son was about a year and a half when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And for the first year of his life, I was exclusively pumping breast milk for him. So my body changed a little bit. I mean, a lot bit. And my boobs, I didn't even recognize them anymore. They were just, I was a milkmaid for over a year.
Yeah.
And so when my husband found my lump, I was totally dismissive. I was like, you know what? I'm a woman, I'm a mom, my body changed. It did all this hard work. Of course, it's got weird stuff going on. So I went to my OBGYN. They were not worried about it either, but they recommended I go get a mammogram just so we have the peace of mind.
Of course.
And as soon as I, you know, got my boobs
Boobie
smashed
squished.
into a pan, made it into a floppy little pancake, I could tell that there was something going on.
So you felt it intuitively? Like you felt it instinctually?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could just read the energy around the room around me. People were quiet. And then they referred me to go get an ultrasound. And I thought, well, if it all looks fine and dandy, why are we looking at it some more? And during the ultrasound, they would keep going over certain spots over and over again. So I thought, wow, there's something that they are really interested in. And so I kind of started to brace myself for impact. I was like, I don't know what the news is going to be, but there's something. And they were all still very quiet, no easy chit chat. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, no one was making any jokes in the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even checking out, you know, one of the nurses sat me down. She's like, I just want to let you know you're going to go have a biopsy. I can't say what it is, but it looks like cancer. It feels like cancer. You know, if it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck.
Absolutely.
It probably is a duck.
Oh my gosh.
And it was breast cancer.
Wow. Now, before you went for your mammogram, before your husband found the lump in your breast, did you feel sick? Did you feel like bad? Or were you just like, yo, I'm a new mom. Like, I'm just trying to freaking make it through the day. I'm exhausted, right? I'm pumping. I'm trying to do all the mom things and work and did you feel sick? Were there any, like, now that you can look back, was there any signs maybe that you were like, oh, something was off? Do you ever think about these things? I know I'm a nosy bitch.
No,
that's why I have a podcast.
I am an open book.
I know you are.
I'm willing to share it all. That's the point of it. I didn't feel sick at all physically. Mentally, now that I know better, I'm in such a different place. Mentally unwell? Absolutely. COVID, trying to potty train my toddler in cloth diapers, exclusively pumping, then getting this weird lump on my breast. I mean, I was not mentally well. And I was so in the thick of it that I didn't even realize. But again, now being on the other side of everything, I'm like, was I feeling unwell physically? No, I was fine, but
Hmm.
mentally unwell, absolutely.
And you're like me, and you are the type of person, because I know you intimately after working with you. You're just like, all right, I'm putting my head down and I'm going to do the damn thing, and I'm not going to like get myself distracted because I have work to do. And we as
Yeah,
women, we just do that, and we just ignore the little like inclinations from God, spirit, that part of us that's like, something's not right. And you
right.
probably felt that. So now looking back, you're like, oh shit, like I knew, but I didn't know
Yes. I mean, we
until I
come
knew.
from yeah, right? Until it's a little bit, I don't wanna say too late because it wasn't too late in my case, but there was cancer. I feel like, and I think you can probably relate, we come from worlds where self-sacrifice is put on a pedestal,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's what makes you an amazing woman, an amazing wife, an amazing mom. Whatever it is with the relationships in your life, the more you self-sacrifice, the quote, better person you are. And I had been subscribing to that for so long at my own expense. And my body, it couldn't take it anymore. It told me, it made it loud and clear that
Yeah.
I neglected my own needs for so long and it took its
Hmm.
toll.
The body keeps the score always.
Oh my gosh, Katie, that was the first book I read once I started therapy,
Such a
and it
good book.
it all made sense.
Absolutely. So, okay. So you go get this mammogram. Then they do an ultrasound on you. Then they're like, yo, you got to go do a biopsy. So you physically all in one day did all that stuff? Or was it
No,
separate? Like they had to schedule the next thing and the next thing and the next thing?
the mammogram and the ultrasound were all in one day. The
Okay.
biopsy was a week or two later, and the results from that came back really quickly and showed that I had a quick growing cancer that was estrogen and progesterone positive, HER2 negative. And so from there, I had an oncologist and a cancer team, and they kind of worked with me to find out my treatment regimen.
Wow. And so you had to go almost 2 weeks without knowing exactly. Like you went through the biopsy. I mean, you went through the mammogram, you went through the ultrasound, and then they're like, okay, you're going to have a biopsy in like a week or two. So that whole time you have to live with, oh my God, what is this thing? And keep
Exactly.
doing your daily work with your child and your husband and work and all that stuff. That's
Yes.
crazy.
That's one of the hardest parts, especially for my personality type, is I just want to know because when I know what something is, I can start getting a strategy together. But the hurry up and wait
That's the hard part.
is so hard because it's mental torture. You
Hmm.
just don't know what to expect. And it doesn't stop there. After we find out that it's cancer, then it's like, okay, well, can I just get a lumpectomy and have it taken out and then I'm good to go? Well, then after surgery, you have to see how are the margins. My margins were not great, so I had to go in for a full double mastectomy. And I shouldn't say that I had to. I then chose to because my
Yes.
margins showed more evidence of cancer that was more than they had even seen.
Hmm.
So in order for me to feel safe in my body again, that was what I had to do. Is I said take the whole thing. If it
Yeah.
didn't show up on imaging, my sense of trust is gone, unfortunately, and we
Hmm.
just got to take it all out.
Right. So how long was that step, the next step to from the lumpectomy to the margins to the double mastectomy? How long was that about?
Ooh, after the lumpectomy, I got the results about the margins around the tumor within 5 days. And then it was like, okay, these are the results. Now let's meet with your oncologist and your surgeon again so we can reassess what we want to do. And within a couple weeks, I made the decision to undergo a bilateral mastectomy.
Hmm.
And yeah, after after that, then we start talking about treatment plan, about
Right.
radiation, chemotherapy. So it's a couple weeks kind of in between those major milestones.
And what was your husband doing? Because I know that we always talk about our experiences, but then we think about the loved ones around us. So like because you and your husband are just so close, you guys are BFF. So like what was that like for you guys together, and what was that like for him? I'm sure you've had conversations.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm so thankful that my husband has always been really open with me and with other people to share about his experience because it's a huge part of it. Um, he really dove into work and taking care of the logistics of life, whereas I was very much in the emotional trauma side of it and just, expressing the utmost grief and despair. So someone kind of had to keep, keep our son
Yeah.
fed,
Pay
and
the bills.
yeah, the world doesn't stop turning when you get cancer. So he really dove into work, and did what he needed to do to make sure that I could just grieve and be upset and weigh my options. I will also say that my in-laws are incredible, and they came out, my mother-in-law specifically came out, lived with us for about 9 months while I
Oh
was
my
going through the
gosh.
surgeries and the treatments. She helped
God
with the
bless
potty
her.
I know, she is an angel on
You never
earth.
hear things like that. You rarely hear that kind of stuff. And for a mother-in-law to be so wonderful to her, I mean, that's just beautiful. So big shout out to her. What's her name?
Trudy.
Trudy,
Trudy is
big
an
shout out to
angel.
you. She
Oh,
is an angel. Oh,
she is the best. She's the best. As a thank you, I took her to go see Taylor Swift.
oh, well, that's what you do when you want to thank Trudy. You got to take her to Tay
Right?
Tay. Yeah.
I know. She's the best. So I'm
Wow.
and it was such a humbling experience because it's like I had this small village around me to get through it and to keep the rest of the world functioning while I was not functioning at top speed. And not everyone has that. And it was very humbling to realize that I'm so lucky, and I can't imagine going through this without the supportive resources that I had.
That's amazing. What was your processes? Because everyone says, and I've talked to a lot of people who have had different types of cancer diagnoses, but everyone says it's almost like this grief that comes over to you, and it's all these different stages. Like you're angry, you're this, you're that. Did you go through all of those different feelings, or was it all happening at once, or was there a very distinctive journey that you took with, your grief? Because think about it, and not to be like three-dimensional, but as someone who competed in pageants, who was judged for their looks, and who is very, and even though I'm not a three-dimensional being, I still live in the third dimension. So I'm very well aware of like, you're judged by your looks and you're just, whatever. Was it super hard to go through something like that, that actually inside of your mind said, oh, my breasts are part of like my femininity and like my beauty, and now this is happening? Did you go through kind of like that detachment and also those different phases of grief?
Absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. And even when I was in that decision-making process, that's when the grief really started of, okay, I'm now forced to decide, am I attached to this part of me? Can I detach from it and still feel ownership over myself and feel feminine and beautiful? And I had to make the decision of, well, am I willing to take the risk? And I decided that I would remove my breasts and I would do whatever it took to make myself feel beautiful again. Radical self-love, because you also can't count on reconstruction. I'm lucky that I had very talented surgeons work on me, and I'm very happy with my reconstruction. But it's still a foreign, it's foreign objects in my body. It's just
Mm-hmm.
implants with skin wrapped around them. So
Yes.
detaching from especially such a maternal part of my body, a part of my body that fed my son.
As you're
um,
breastfeeding, this is going on. Like you're still in the breastfeeding time, right? You were at the
You
end.
know, I had weaned, and it's funny because I motivated myself through pumping saying, "Well, you know what? If this jacks up my boobs, I'm gonna treat myself to the boob job of my dreams when I'm done."
I love you. I
How
love
is
you.
that?
Yeah, you got the boob
Well,
jobs of not your dreams, but you still got
right?
one. God
Got
help me.
got an amputation with, some implants with skin over it, you know?
Wow. Wow. And it's like one day your breasts are feeding your child, and the
The
next they
next
become a hazard to your health.
Right, the next thing they're trying to kill you. And so I had to go through that grief process like you said, and I was angry. I was angry that I even had to make that decision.
And there's a lot of
I
betrayal around that. Like your body is turning on you.
Absolutely. And it was like,
Yeah.
what did I do to deserve this? And I spun
Oof.
that narrative in my head for a long time of what did I do? Why is this happening to me? Um, I felt like I was being punished for something. And to be honest, I also felt like my family was being punished. I was like,
Mm.
why is my 1.5-year-old son having to go? I mean, he didn't know what was going on, but God forbid I didn't survive. I was like, why should he have to potentially lose his mother? He does not deserve this. My husband doesn't deserve to go through this. He deserves to just have his wife who can
Do all the
be
things.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
do all the
Mm-hmm.
things and keep up. Um, he liked my boobs too.
I'm sure.
Wasn't
He was like, I
luckily
will motorboat those things.
right.
I am all up in it.
I mean, not only did I miss them, but I was like, are you going to be okay?
Yeah.
Is this a deal breaker? Of course, it's not a deal breaker.
Right.
Our marriage is is based on so much more than my anatomy,
Of
but
course.
it's a huge transition,
Yeah.
and it was a big mental block to get over. And
And no one talks about and I don't want to take the experience from you, but no one talks enough, in my opinion, about the husbands and the significant others that go through this journey with their wives or with their girlfriends or significant others or their partners. Like, because I always think of that too. Like, and we all think these ways, right? Especially if we're awakened, enlightened beings, we think about death, we think about our mortality, we think about the people around us. Like, God forbid, if I passed away, what would happen to my husband? Would he remarry? Would this happen? Who would take care of that? Like, you just think about all these things just in general, but then to be like, in your case, to be faced with this is like, this is real right now. This isn't just like hypothetical, thoughts. This is like a real experience. And I love that you talk about your husband like that, because I just don't think that the men get enough recognition in these types of scenarios. I mean, listen, there's a lot of assholes out there that are like, oh, you don't have any more boobies? I'm a peace out. And you know what? That's how God shows you who people really truly are. But
Yeah,
in your case, you had such a supportive spouse. So God bless.
absolutely. And you know what? I'm so glad that you see that too, because whenever you are the cancer patient, it's all revolving around you. Rightfully so, understandably so. But if you have a supportive partner like me, they are just in the thick of it, except the ball's not really in their court. They can't do the treatment for you. They can't have the surgery for you. Yet they're also experiencing the grief and the heaviness of those emotions. And
Yeah.
yet all they can do is kind of come along for the ride and meet you where you're at. Whereas at least for me, I was like, you know what? Check off chemo today. I did what I'm supposed to do. And that helped me cope and feel like I'm doing what I need to do to get on the other side of this. Whereas
Hmm.
when you're a spouse, you're so emotionally in it as well. But your actions you can take are very different from the cancer patients.
And you know what else I loved so much about your journey, watching it from the outside looking in, is you had like the labia lips of steel to actually go on social media and document your experience. Like one day I see you and you're like, having the baby and you're doing the thing and you're like living your life. And the next day I see you and you're like in the chemo chair with your little cooling cap on, trying to keep your hair. And I was just like, this bitch is so fucking, you are honestly. And I know that I say this to a lot of people on here because usually when they come on here, they are the epitome of ambitious, but you truly are the epitome of ambitious in so many ways. And to watch someone like you go through this with such grace and then to also document it for people to see your journey, like that to me took some big cojones. So, and I'm so grateful that you did that, because I don't think that if you didn't, I don't think you would be here speaking to me and all of our listeners from all across the globe, because you would have just, like so many people, gone through your cancer journey in kind of like quiet, in solitude, which a lot of people choose to do, but you were brave enough to do it in a different way. And I commend you so much for that.
That means so much to me. Thank you. I receive that. I really receive that. Thank you, Katie. I
So
think,
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that journey, documenting what made you be like, I'm gonna put this on Instagram.
yeah. There's a couple reasons, and one of them is a selfish reason.
Mm,
I'm so blessed that I had so many people checking in on me and texting me and wanting updates. In my self-discovery journey, have realized that I thrive in solitude and that my social capacity is very limited. And I did not
same.
want, yeah, I
We've had
did
these
not.
conversations so many times, you and I.
Yes, yes. And I didn't want to have to lather, rinse, repeat, and give the same answer to 100 people about the same thing. So I figured, you know what? Most of the people in my life were connected on social media. What a blessing. I'm going to use this to share a mass update so everyone can know, so everyone has the same information. And I also wanted my friends who were grieving alongside me to be able to talk about it with each other
Yeah.
if they wanted to.
Yes.
I wanted them to have that sense of community of, oh my gosh, we're both mutually worried about Martha. Should we check in on her? So that they can also find support with each other. And so it served multiple functions for me to share, but also I think part of me knew that I would survive and that I would be more than okay on the other side. And so being such a big part of my journey, I was like, I can't show up 2 years from now living my best life without being very honest about the time that I was not living my best life and I was in the shit pit. That would be so disingenuous. So I really felt like it was important for people to know what my reality is like whenever I'm in the dumps so that it can make my evolution that much more meaningful and know
Yes.
that there's a lot of context and a lot of work behind it.
Yes. And there's so many people that, I have had in my life who have been diagnosed with cancer. And they said that one of the most exhausting parts of going through the cancer, journey, healing and recovering from it and going into remission and becoming cancer free was people love you so much and they want to help you, but they don't know how.
Of
And
course.
I'm sure that so many people, if you're not documenting your cancer journey, people I'm sure incessantly are trying to reach out to you. What can I do? How can I help? And that must be so exhausting for someone who's already physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually exhausted from going through, everything you go through when you're trying to recover from your cancer diagnoses. So I think that that's such a great advice to anyone out there who, God forbid, if they ever are faced with this cancer diagnosis, that instead of like feeling like they have to talk to every person asking questions, maybe kind of kill two birds with one stone and just put it out there so everyone can watch your journey. Because to me, it was so inspiring to watch because I was like, dude, this girl is fucking amazing. Because I don't know. And I know that you're like, Katie, shut up. You're so strong too. But I don't know if I could be as strong as you were. So I admire you so much and I look up to you so much as to have watched you and experienced that from the outside looking in. I was like, wow, this girl's amazing, amazing. And I don't think it was selfish at all. But now that you say that, I understand like where your thought processes was coming from, right?
Yeah, well, thank you. And I don't know, I disagree because I've seen you be really strong and open and vulnerable whenever you've been in the shit pit. So
Thank you.
I disagree. I think that you would handle it with
We were
your
in
own
different
Katie
pits.
Boyd strengths.
Yeah,
Exactly,
we were
different
in different
pits.
pits. We were in different pits.
Yes. Yeah. But I understand that not everyone is even on social media or feels comfortable sharing on social media. So if that were an issue for me, I probably would have written in my notes app a a generalized response so that
Yes.
whenever someone asks you, "Hey, how are you doing? Any updates?" So you don't have to type it out 25 times. So you
Yes.
have it kind of saved in your notes app and you can copy paste and tweak as necessary depending on who you're texting.
Yeah.
But it's that mental load. And if you don't have the social battery for it, like make it easier on yourself. That's one simple way you can streamline it is kind of answer it in your notes app and then copy paste it to everyone
And
who's asking.
I think with anything you go through, it doesn't even have to be cancer. It could be like the death of a parent or,
Right?
sickness or whatever. People actually, there's a lot of such, even though we're living in a really crazy world right now, there's so many wonderful, loving, kind people who want to help you. And sometimes they
Yes.
don't know how. And sometimes, and I don't know if you went through this too when you were going through your cancer journey, where people just didn't know what to say. So they retracted themselves from your life. Did you
Yeah.
go through that as well? Like feel like kind of, I don't want to say the word abandoned, but I don't really know what other word. Did you feel like kind of like abandoned by certain people because they felt uncomfortable? They didn't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. So they just, instead of inserting themselves on how they can help, they almost like pulled away. Did you go through anything like that?
I definitely experienced that in more than one relationship for sure. Um, I was so in my own world that I was more confused of any lack of communication, but I think I knew not to take it personally because I don't always know how to show up for people in my life who are going through something. And me, especially being an introvert, sometimes my default is to pull away a little bit and give space because sometimes that's what I would want, but no
Yeah.
one knows except for you. So I didn't take it personally, but then when I was on the other side of it, I did kind of reach out to those relationships to see where are we now? Now that I'm in a better place, like, is there a relationship there? Is there resentment there? And I was pleasantly surprised by a lot of those relationships and disappointed in a handful. But like you
Mm,
said a moment or two ago, I mean, it really tells you about the underlying relationship and whether it's worthwhile or whether
yeah.
it's expired.
Yeah. And like we were talking off camera and I was saying, God, prunes you when you go through these types of things. God's like, okay, anything that is not going to help you be fruitful whether it's person or experiences or old, bad habits or thought processes or programs, like we have to prune that out of your life. And God will do that in a lot of different ways. And for some people, it's a divorce or leaving a job. And for some people, it's a cancer diagnosis, right? Everything is there for a reason, right? And I love the story too, because even just you speaking, you're so intentional, like with the way that you think. And I think so many people are not intentional like that, but you are so intentional, like, hey, where are we now? And most people wouldn't do that. They would just be like, oh, this person didn't talk to me for 6 months during my chemo and my radiation and my mastectomy. Like, so fuck them. I'm not going to ever talk to them again. Where sometimes we have to put ourselves in other people's shoes and say, like, maybe they just don't have the skill set that is needed at this time. Do you have advice for people who are going through, it doesn't even have to be cancer. It could just be a difficult, like we call it the shit pit in Ambitious, right? As some kind of a shit pit or some kind of a sickness, illness, disease, a loss. It could be cancer. How they can best communicate with people their needs, because I just don't think that people know how. I think we've like lost that over the years. Like people just don't know how to tell people what they desire and what they need from a relationship, even if it's just, a work colleague or a sister or a friend. It doesn't have to be your family, like close, like your husband or whatever, or your best friend, but it could be like this. Because, we have like layers, right, of friends. It's like you have your inner nucleus, then it kind of goes out from there. And I think the further away that it gets, the people know less and less how to show up for you because they really don't truly intimately know you, like your inner sanctum of people. Do you have advice on that for people maybe that are going through something like that?
Yeah, definitely. Because we're all going to be in our own shit pit at some point. That's just how life
Amen.
works. I know once I realized that I had all these people who wanted to help me, I figured, well, if they don't know how to help me, that's on me to give the answer. So on social media, I put a post out there saying, hey, these are my updates. If you're interested in helping, these are some areas where I would be open to help. Backup babysitters, meals, texting me to check in on me. These are just some ideas. And I said, honestly, I don't know what each day is going to bring. But if you have an offer, if cooking is your love language or childcare is up your alley, let me know and I will put it on a list in case I'm ever in a position of, hey, I need a babysitter.
Right.
Okay, my top one's not available. Who's next on the list?
Yes.
So I gave suggestions of things that would be useful for me. And then I also left it open of, let me know what you have the capacity for to help me in this stage in life. Because here's the other thing is I wasn't the only one going through my shit. Other people were simultaneously going through their own shit. Maybe they were brand new mothers with a newborn at home and their capacity is none. And that is totally understood. For the people in my closest circle, luckily I felt comfortable texting to be really specific with what I needed of like, hey, this weekend I could use a little socialization. Can you come visit me? And I'm so thankful for people who are able to fill that bucket for me. So I think that, like you said, there's the outer ring, there's the inner ring, there's so many different layers. And I think being the first to put it out there of suggesting ways that people can show up for you, and then it puts the ball in their court of, do they have the capacity for it? If so, great. If not, there might be more to the story there. And it doesn't have to be automatically judged as, oh, they don't care about me. It could be, you know what, they've got their own thing going on. Who knows what their shit pit looks like? So that's what I would recommend. And I'm going to keep that in mind for my future shit pits because,
we're gonna have more.
Yeah, yep. But once you deal with one, at least you have some coping mechanisms and ideas to make the next shit pit a little more reasonable. I don't know. That's my hope anyways.
Amen.
Might be Delulu. We'll see.
No, I don't think it's Delulu at all. I think it's like, I want that more for people. I want them to be able to show up more for people because it makes you feel good. I always tell people, if you're having a bad day and you're feeling really shitty about yourself, and I do it all the time, the best thing to do is to lose yourself in service of others.
Right.
Because every time I just feel kind of downtrodden, melancholic, depressed, and we all get there, instead of kind of like perseverating and like bubbling up in my own like world, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to reach out to someone and see if I can help them. And then if I can, it makes me instantly feel better. like instantly,
Right.
even if it's like something so small as like you go to a coffee shop and a lady's wearing like a cute pair of shoes and you're like, oh my God, I love your shoes. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. Like you don't realize like so many people, and I know you realize, but people out there don't realize that there's so many people in the world that are like one nut or butter away from the fucking cuckoo house. And I've been there. And or just
Right.
totally losing their shit, having a breakdown. And some people to the place where, you know, they're questioning why they're even here anymore, you know? And I think that to give people the opportunity to show up for you and to be able to intentionally express that is so powerful. Were you pleasantly surprised by how people showed up for you? Like, were there like a lot of like, wow, that was really amazing? Were there a lot of those moments?
I was pleasantly surprised by how many people offered to show up for me. And here's where it's another side to the coin. I was not personally in a place where I was willing to allow much help, and that's been a lot of work since then of like,
Who are you talking to,
it's
girl?
I know, Katie,
That's
yeah,
that's
you
my
get
calling
it.
card. Oh,
Yes,
I'm the worst at accepting help from people because the way that I was raised is people helping you is equals weakness.
yes,
And that's
yes.
not true.
Or you don't want to burden other people because you know
That's
what it
also
feels
true.
like
Yes.
to carry that burden where someone expects so much of you.
Yep.
So you never want to be the burden on others. And so accepting help is something that I've had to really overcome. And honestly, I did not accept enough help when I was going through cancer treatment, but that was a learning lesson for me. And I was so beautifully surprised by how many offers there were, or to be honest, by how many people showed up at my doorstep and they said, you don't have to host me. I'm not here for a visit. I'm just here to drop something off. And to me, I felt so seen and understood of like, thank you for understanding that I'm not comfortable. My house is a disaster. I feel like
Yes.
a disaster. I just don't feel comfortable to show up with people right now. But my God, the time that you took to drive all the way up to my house, drop something off, or even if it's just mailing me a card just to know that you were thinking of me, I could not believe how people showed up for me in that way.
It's
And
freaking
again, and
amazing.
I hope that people who offered help and I did not accept it, I hope that that is not taken personally. I hope it's understood that that's just not where I was at. And that's another sign of that relationship of, are they giving you compassion or are they giving
Yes.
you judgment because you didn't accept their help?
Oh, 100%. And, you know, you and I are so alike where it's difficult for us to accept help and to ask
Yes.
for it because of how we were kind of like programmed as children and how we were programmed as young adults. And I've had people who have reached out to help me with certain things. And then because like I maybe wasn't ready at that moment, like they get mad at me. And I'm like, are you trying to help me for your own self? Or are you really like from coming from a good place to want to help me for me? And that's what I
Right.
think that people have to kind of differentiate. Like you said, don't take things personal. Like people need to read the damn Four Agreements, child, by Don
Oh,
Miguel
it's the
Ruiz.
best. Yes.
Like that needs to be a prerequisite book for everybody in the world. Cause I was like, y'all taking things way too damn personal. And I was like back in the day, and I've worked on this a lot. We've had these conversations where I used to take everything personal. I always felt like it was a personal attack on me if someone, you know, didn't feel some sort of way. And it's like, dude, no, it has nothing to do with you. It's everything to do with them. And we just have to kind of like bless it and release it. But in the moment, especially where you weren't feeling well and you were so, you know, stretched so thin and there was so much pressure on you. Sometimes it's like your brain isn't even thinking those ways. And the person's like,
Exactly.
how dare she, you know, not accept my casserole or want me to come over the house and sit for hours and hours on end. Because as you know, when you weren't feeling well, when you were going through that, there's days probably you had zero energy. You
No. And
probably couldn't even have
again,
conversation with people, you know?
right? Yes, and especially now knowing through so much self-discovery, I didn't know that I thrived in solitude. I really didn't know that about myself. And so part of me shamed myself for retreating. And now I can give myself so much self-compassion, be like, no, that's literally what I needed more of is just to be on my own, take care of my immediate needs, and then have the people around me do all the other things.
Yes. You and I
Yeah,
are ambiverts. We're so much alike where,
yeah,
and people think that because I always am speaking and doing all these things that I'm an extrovert, and I actually am not. I do not get energy from people people actually drain my energy. And that's not even in a bad way. It's just like, that's just how I'm wired. So when I do like a lot of work where I'm speaking a lot, I need like sometimes 3 days after to like be quiet, to
Makes
like
sense.
restore my energy. And then there's days like you were saying before, like how you're like, hey, I may feel social this weekend. So can we do something fun? Or like you just come over and we shoot the shit and have a glass of wine or whatever. But I'm also, are you like this? Maybe, I don't know. I'm going to ask you a question. This is funny. Are you the type of person where you're like in a good mood and you make like all these plans and then the day comes and you're like, why the fuck did I do this?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially like large social gatherings. Almost every time I
Instant
show up,
diarrhea.
I'm like, what did I do to myself? Why did I
Instant
say yes
diarrhea.
to this?
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Oh,
Yeah,
Katie.
that's like bubble gut inducing for me. Like
Yes.
everyone's like, oh, we're having this big party. And I'm like, that sounds so fun because like fun Katie's like out at that moment. Maybe she had a couple
Right.
cocktails and she's feeling a little loose. And then the day comes and I'm like, oh my God, could I fake my own death today to
Right.
not go to this? Could I like,
Yes.
could someone can please like anything? Oh yeah. But when I go, I end up having a good time, but it's like getting there is like a feat because it's
Right.
like dragging me out of my safe comfort zone at my house with my inner
Right.
sanctum of people, you know?
Absolutely. Especially if it's, for me, if it's a social gathering where the conversations don't go any deeper than surface level, immediately I'm like, okay, so maybe I'm going to do a little breath work while we're having this light as air conversation because this is just draining me and I
And
need to go
I'm like
deeper.
you where I have to go deep like right off the bat. And so
Yes.
people think I'm intense, but it's
Right.
like, dude, I like every moment I spend that's away from like my purpose. I know this sounds morbid, but I think about these things like I'm 1 minute closer to my death. And so if we're going to be here doing this, like we need to like get to know each other. I want to know your innermost dark secrets. I want to have real conversation with you. I don't want to talk about the weather. I don't want to talk about the Patriots. I don't give an absolute fuck.
Right.
And
It's like
people
eating
think
a
I'm
piece of fruit.
snobby.
No.
Well, they were like, "Oh, Katie Blaine thinks she's better than everybody." I don't. I actually do not. I just don't like to waste my energy on bullshit. And I know that you're
Absolutely.
the same way.
Yes. It's like eating a grapefruit. Like you don't want to sit at the skin. You want to get past the skin and get to the juicy part.
Amen, sister.
I'm all about the juice.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Okay, so you went through all of this. You came out on the other side. You're totally cancer free.
I am. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank
Now,
you.
what is being cancer free like for you? Like, what do you do? Do you have to go to the doctors all the time? Like, because I obviously I know because I watch everything you do, but for out there to all the women that are listening in Bitches Land, what is it like for you now?
So on the other side of treatment, and because treatment is ongoing, there will always be maintenance. I call myself like a breast cancer rebel because I don't really like to say survivor because I'm still dealing with the disease, even though it's not in my body. There's
Right.
always chance of reoccurrence. So I like to say that I'm a rebel instead of a survivor.
I love
But
that.
it's for a while it was monthly checkups to get a shot, and now it's every 3 months to get a different kind of shot, and that's basically to suppress my ovaries, since my breast cancer was progesterone and estrogen fed. So I'm basically this little old lady on the inside going through menopause.
You don't look like an old lady, girl.
Right. It affects my mother-in-law. It's like one more thing that we have in common. We're like, okay, we gotta no, gotta get our bones strong and
Yep,
take our vitamin D and our calcium supplements.
absolutely.
So yeah, it's always a maintenance thing, and then there comes the lifestyle aspect, which I've been very compassionate with myself on because after facing something like cancer, it is so easy to pick yourself apart and to say, "Oh my gosh, well, I used to drink a bottle of wine, a night or a week," and it's so easy to blame yourself or to say like, "Oh, I've been eating poorly forever." There's not really much productive to just look back and shame yourself. So instead, I'm like, well, what do I choose to do today? Do I choose to eat my vegetables first before anything else on my plate? Am I choosing to drink water instead of, something else? So it's kind of an ongoing lifestyle once you have faced your own mortality. And again, it's not necessarily cancer. Once you realize that your time is finite and you have shit to do on this earth.
Amen.
It's like and I know you, Katie, like you live and breathe this of prioritizing your well-being so that you can fulfill your purpose and not deal with stuff like cancer to, to kind of derail you.
I've just seen so many people in my life over the years who they're on this like wild magic carpet ride of just like partying and drinking and no self-care and just putting themselves around the wrong low vibrational frequency people and staying in relationships that aren't healthy and jobs that aren't healthy and programming that's not healthy. And then it takes them getting something like cancer, right? To
Hmm.
wake up and go like, whoa, what the fuck am I doing? My goal for everyone that I work with is like, let's not get to that place where something crazy has to happen in your life where that's what wakes you up and catalyzes this like different, shift. Let's shift now. Because at the end of the day, not to be again more have a little case of the morbs today, because I'm a little melancholy fucking Adam's family-esque, but like we are all going to die. We don't know when we're going to die. That's why I do, mortality meditation with you guys all the time on the app, because we have to, check ourselves before we wreck ourselves, right? We have to remember, like, we don't know when God's going to call us home. So we better suck the marrow out of every day of our lives. And we have to be very intentional and very specific about like what we are spending our time on. So when
Yes.
did that shift for you a lot too? Like after where you were just like, like this thing is bad for me, or like I'm working too much, or I don't see my family enough, or I'm not spending time with like my close friends. Like, did you have any kind of epiphanies or awakenings around your life like that after you went into remission? Or maybe even
It
during your cancer journey.
During the cancer journey, I think I was so in the thick of it that
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking at that vibration yet.
Hmm.
Once I was on the other side and I was like, okay, treatment's done. Now what? That's when it clicked of, am I going to go back to the life that I was living before? And that's when I really started to do a lot of self-discovery work. And it wasn't just about, like I said, changing lifestyle habits. It was really about, what am I doing with my energy? Where's my energy going? And a lot of it was retraining my self-talk in my head, and also making sure that I literally schedule in pockets out of my day to fuel myself back up. And whatever my needs are at that time, make sure those needs are met. I mean, Katie, I used to ignore my needs so badly that if I had to go pee, I would say, oh, no, 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 I just don't want to finish working on this. I'm going to hold it until I practically pee myself. I
Same
would,
bitch.
I would ignore those basic needs. And I had to restart over being like, no, no, Martha, it looks like your body's telling you something. Let's listen to your body, because not listening to your body didn't work out so well before.
Oh
So
my
it
God.
started with little things like that. And then it evolves into so much more. It's actually caring and nurturing yourself. And not to say that every day or every moment is perfect. I mean, my tank still runs empty and I'm still battling burnout at times, but I am more out of those cycles than I am in them, which is a huge
Hmm.
win for me. And it's an ongoing process, especially having a kid. It's like their needs also come into the picture. But honoring your own needs too, like it shouldn't take cancer for that to be something that changes.
I resonate so much with what you're saying. Is I, like you, will hold my pee. I'll not eat. I'll like
Yeah.
schedule myself hour to hour with like no break times to breathe in between and just be like, okay, that was good, like process and then like go on to the next thing. As I
Hmm.
get older though, I notice that I don't have the capacity anymore to like push myself to that point.
Right.
I slowly see myself unraveling all these like bad habits and like, always trying to hustle and grind and I've talked about burnout a million times on the podcast, on the app, just in everything I do. And it still plagues me as well, but watching someone like you like just be more nurturing and loving to themselves, it also inspires me. That's why I always tell people like share your story and just be so open with others, because you don't realize like who's watching you, and that you being unapologetically yourself and just being so you in every fiber of your being is actually in some crazy way giving other women permission to do the same. Like that's
Yes,
huge to me.
absolutely. And permission to not always show up to serve others. Like, and Katie, you serve, you deliver.
I try
um,
my best, girl.
yes, and we all try our best. We want to. We want to. But when our own needs aren't met, like, I mean, and you've talked to me about this, like it has to be coming from the right place. And I've ebbed and flowed with that a lot, and sometimes I still catch myself thinking that I'm selfish for, not posting on social media or taking a break from something, and it's like, but if that's truly what I need, and not an avoidance tactic because of anxiety, but if
Right.
that's truly what I need to feel better, then I can serve so much greater, and I think that's part of why you are so effective with the way that you serve is because you have your practices so that you can show up.
Yes, and there's days sometimes like I'll do different things. Like I'll say to myself, hey, I know that like every day I meditate and I do my breath work, but today I'm going to pray the rosary. And I'll shift it
Mm,
and I won't feel, and I'll just do different things. And like the next day, I'm like, hey, my meditation is going to be a walk in the woods. It's not going to be sitting on my meditation pillow and doing my transcendental meditation perfectly with my mudras and my, my breath work and all this stuff. I think that just every day, or just maybe your meditation is going to have a cup of coffee with a friend who's like super spiritual and just fills you up and just speaks victory into you. Every day doesn't have to be this like to a, because this is another thing too that happens, right? We create like these other rigidities in our lives. And then you're like,
yeah,
holy shit, I'm right back to where I was before, but it's just a different way I'm showing up. And like, is that healthy? Probably not as well. The other thing that
right,
just sparked me with that you said, and I kind of like started thinking in the back of my mind when you were talking is like, we don't even know as women, like what we truly want. Like we
right.
don't even know how to tell people around us, like, hey, I just like really need you to hug me and I need to like just fucking cry. And I don't want you to try to fix it. Cause like, I don't know how your
Right.
husband is, but like Matt is a fixer. Like he's a Virgo. And as soon as I'm like, I'm having a bad day. And he's like, okay, sit down. Tell me what's going on. We'll fix it. We'll take care of it. And I'm like, bro, I don't even need that from you. I just need you to hold space for me and just like love me and not judge me and just like shut the fuck up, you know?
Absolutely.
But we don't even know
Yes.
how to tell the people in our lives that we love, like how to show up for us because we don't even know how we need to be shown up for because we're
Right.
so fucking brainwashed from childhood is like what you were saying when we first started the podcast. Like, we have to be selfless and we have to give to everything else and everyone else. And like, we're a bad mom if we don't do this. And we're bad at our job if we don't show up like that. And we can't even have fucking cancer. We have to show up for people and tell, like, God's sakes.
Katie, even when I mean, this journey has taken me a long time to figure out.
And I bet
And
you're
when
still figuring shit out like every day.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's an ongoing process, and I have just accepted that. I'm like, okay, I've really done a lot of self-discovery work, but it's not going to end. Whenever I was healing from my reconstructive surgery, I was doing at-home hospice for my father and taking care of my disabled sister. And even then I was like, yeah, I can bring them to the bathroom, whereas I'm not supposed to be lifting anything over like 3 pounds.
That's right.
So it really it took so many times for me to wake up and listen and be like you have needs. I know this is a dire situation, but that's no excuse for self-neglect. So yeah, it's very much an ongoing process. And you're right about, when you have someone who loves you and supports you in your life, they want you to just have whatever you need to be okay, especially with a spouse, and it's like, I had to tell my husband, and once I heard this language, it might have even been from your podcast of like, "Do you want me to listen or do you want me to provide solutions?" And
Yes.
ever since now, we always say to each other like, "I just need space. Let me just,
Yes.
you know, word vomit this out, and then I'll be okay."
Could you imagine if we actually, in every relationship in our lives, no matter what relationship it was, when someone came to you and was just like dumping on you and you stopped them right away and said, I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for you. Do you want my advice or do you just want me to hold space and just say nothing? Because so many people in our world, like you just said, they want to fix things and sometimes we
Mhm.
don't need that. Also, because I personally coach a lot of people in their businesses and their lives one on one, sometimes people will come to me and they'll just like tell me all this shit and I will say to them, okay, you have two choices. Either I can just hold space for you and you can tell me all this stuff, or I'm going to go into bitch mode, Katie Boyd, and I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do. And
Yeah.
there are times where my clients are like, no, I just really just need you to hold space for me. And that for me is so hard because I'm a fixer too. As you
You
know, I want to
it's
help and I
coming
want
from
to
a place of
fix
care. Yeah, of
100%.
course.
But I also have to say, I have to also self preserve because there's no need for me to give all this advice if the person doesn't need it, doesn't want it. That's not what they're asking for. And on top of that, they're never going to take it and actually do anything with it. So it's going to fall on deaf ears. It's a waste of my breath. It's a waste of my energy. It's a waste of my brain power. But it doesn't mean it's bad or good. I don't even judge it anymore. But when I was younger in my coaching business, I'd be like, what's wrong with me as a coach that these people aren't doing what I'm telling them to do? You know, and it's like, maybe they're not ready, dude.
Yeah.
Maybe
It's
they
so
just need
true.
someone to listen to them because they don't have anyone
Absolutely.
else in their lives that will listen to them from a non-judgmental, unbiased place, you know?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
tell everybody now, like, okay, so you got through all of these amazing things. You overcame so much. Now tell people how you're using all of this pain and all of this crazy roller coaster of experiences to really power your purpose. So talk a little bit
Yes.
about the Pink Ribbon Playbook because I want everyone to be involved in this.
All right. Well, I firmly believe that anyone who has been through, I mean, big T trauma or little T trauma, cancer, whatever it is, I think that everyone has the right to come out on the other side of it a better person, with more purpose, more meaning in their life. So, because I can so specifically relate to the breast cancer community, I figured it's time for me to create a space where anyone who has faced breast cancer, whether it is with a diagnosis or because you carry a BRCA gene and you're a previvor. This is a space where we can start doing the work to get onto the other side. I mean, you have your medical team. This is the self development corner where you can explore things, we can talk about things openly. We're going to be blunt with each other. There's a lot of grieving that comes with something like this. You have to grieve your old self, your old life, what you thought life would look like, what you thought your body would look like. Um, so processing that grief and giving tangible action steps to help you move through it so you don't get stuck in it. Because I see so many of my breasties getting stuck in the shit pit because they've faced this. It has, in their eyes, it has ruined their life, understandably so, but they stay stuck in that place. And I can't bear to see that for any of my breasties. So this is the space where we start moving forward one baby step at a time. We uncover some grief. It's a safe place, but then we give you the tools to move on past it. We then get curious. We talk about, well, now what needs do you have? You've experienced this overwhelming grief. What needs do you have? Do you need comfort? Do you need inspiration? Do you need to feel safe in your body? And these are all workshops that we cover. So we dive into, once your needs are met, how can you actually enjoy life again? Like, once you face cancer, if you are lucky enough to live through it, you didn't beat cancer to not enjoy your life. So
Absolutely.
then, and I know you're so familiar with this kind of shadow work of, what do you actually enjoy? What do you like doing? And a lot of that goes back to childhood of, I love to sing. And I used to sing to my son. Now that he's 5, he'd rather, listen to his his own music. But
Yes.
in order for me to like kind of give myself an avenue to sing again, I started singing the national anthem at sporting events last
I
year.
love it. I love it.
Right? I mean, the national anthem is not the most fun song to sing,
No,
but I was
but
like,
it gets the
but
job done.
it does. It got the job done. It got me out there singing again. It reminded me that I love to do it. I'm great at it. And so it's exploring all these elements where you can get from grief to enjoyment. And there's so many little steps in between. And just having that safe place to come and do it as a community. Um, what is that phrase? I think you said it the other day. We can go, what is it? Faster as one,
Together.
but
Yeah.
further together. And I
Yes.
want to go further together. So
Amen.
that is what the Pink Ribbon Playbook is all about.
And so it's an app that people can download on their phones. They can use it on their computer
Yes.
system. And it's all of the work and it's also the community and then all of your incredible expertise. And you're just going to be speaking victory into these ladies from all across the globe, which is so cool because we have listeners in all different countries. And I
Yeah.
know that there's so many women that I work with and that our listeners here on Ambitious that have dealt with breast cancer or maybe will deal with it in the future, or they've had breast cancer and they're one of those women that you were talking about that are so married to the breast cancer that
Hmm.
they cannot even go forward and enjoy the life that they have because they're, it's almost like they're walking on eggshells and they're waiting for that other shoe to drop, like what, maybe it will come back and, whatever. And you don't have to be like that. Why
Right?
would God gave you this second chance to like create this whole new life, and you're going to be so bogged down for the rest of your life in your story and not enjoy all that life has to offer?
Exactly. And this kind of really niche idea that we also kind of talk about is your breast cancer is a huge part of your story now, but do you want it to be your whole story? And it's kind of blending. How do we turn your life experience with this, and is advocacy the right avenue for it? Is storytelling the right avenue? But how can you blend it and merge it into the rest of your life without taking over the rest of your life? You're not
Yeah.
just a breast cancer survivor or thriver or rebel. Like, you still have all the other elements to uncover. So it's really about marrying those two parts of life.
And I love what the Pink Ribbon Playbook, the app, the experience, it really is a playbook, because we know when we were first talking a while back and we were talking about you creating this, I said to you, I was like, no one gives you like a manual, like, oh, you have breast cancer. Here's how to deal with it. Here's all the advice here. People don't know shit. And that, in my opinion, is one of the scariest parts of being diagnosed with any kind of illness, sickness, disease, etc., where like you feel so alone, you feel so isolated. You can go down a weird rabbit hole Googling shit.
Oh
You end
yeah.
up on WebMD and you think the worst, instead of like having this beautiful community of, like you call it, the breasties, of all these women who are either, in remission or actively in treatment, or, maybe they're even someone that doesn't have breast cancer at all, but maybe their mother just was diagnosed, or their sister or their best friend, and they don't know how to navigate. And you are the one that's like bringing the playbook, like, here, I'm going to help you, and I'm going to meet you where you're at in any place you are in your journey or someone else that you love's journey. And I just think that, you're doing God's work. No one is doing
Thank
what you're
you.
doing in the community. I mean, there's so many people that, they want to get involved in the breast cancer movement, but they do it in a very, and I'm not talking shit, but they do it in a very superficial way because they don't know how else to do it. And you are like,
Yes.
let's get down and dirty and deep, and like, let's do the damn thing, so that on the other side, we all come out as the best versions of ourselves, no matter what happened to us. And like, that's so fucking
Exactly.
commendable. I admire you so much for this.
Thank you, Katie. That means so much to me. I really appreciate it.
So how can people get in touch with you? They can follow you on social. So I know that we're
Yeah.
also if you scroll down to the show notes, guys, wherever you're consuming this podcast, you're going to find Martha's app. You're going to find her Instagram account. But where are you like most active outside of the Pink Ribbon Playbook app?
I
Insta?
would yeah, Instagram Pink Ribbon Playbook. That's where we kind of drop little nuggets of what we're talking about for the week, or addressing, some topics that we can all relate to. But then we really get to the juicy stuff in the app. And we're doing a 7-day free trial, so come and get a taste of it, see if it's your speed. And I do
Awesome.
want to say, I understand that it's not a linear journey, and the self-discovery element of it might be while you're in active treatment. It might come way down the road. Everyone's timing is so different. I know when I was in the shit pit, I was not there yet. But once you decide for yourself that you're ready to see what the next chapter after the shit pit looks like, Pink Ribbon Playbook is your first stop.
So exciting. I'm so happy that you created something so incredible for all the women out there. And I know that whoever gets on that app and works with you is going to have their life totally changed. And I'm so proud of you for doing this. And it's so
Thank you.
needed. So thank you.
Thank you, Katie. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. Well, I could talk to you for literally 10 hours,
I
but
know, I know.
there's only so much time in the day to do the big things. But I am so looking forward to the ladies here listening and working with you. And you've helped me, you've inspired me, and I know you're going to inspire them. So thank you for taking time out of your beautiful, busy life to come here and speak victory into the ladies in Ambitious and all across the globe. I appreciate you so much.
The feeling is so incredibly mutual, Katie. You're a rock star. And I'm
Thank
so glad
you.
that I've had you as a role model in my life in so many different eras.
Oh, I know. Isn't it weird? It's like
It is.
it's like we always stayed in each other's sphere for some weird reason, and now it's like it all makes sense. It really
It's
truly does.
it's deeply meaningful to me to see someone who I know from like a former life really and be like, wow,
Yes.
we have evolved so much. I
You
love it.
ain't
It
kidding, girl.
gives me so much hope for the world.
Amen. I'm telling you, like, if people could have seen us like 10, 15 years ago, we're not the same person at all. At
Nope.
all.
Nope.
But oh my
We've
God,
done the work.
and we're gonna keep doing it, sister.
Absolutely.
Guys, if you thought this was an amazing podcast as I did, please share it out there into the world with anyone who may be facing a cancer diagnosis or facing, being a caretaker to someone who has been recently diagnosed, or maybe you're out of the shit pit, as Martha calls it, and you just want to have some amazing women in your life and learn from Martha. Get on over to the Pink Ribbon Playbook. Just scroll down to the show notes and share this with as many people as you can. And like I always say, don't forget to stay ambitious, and I will see you next Tuesday.